Jeffrey Dahmer, a name that still sends shivers down spines across the world. To most, he seemed quiet and harmless, just another face in the crowd. But behind that calm, polite exterior hid a darkness no one could have imagined. Inside his small Milwaukee apartment, Dahmer committed acts so disturbing they would horrify even the most hardened detectives. He wasn't just a killer. He was a man consumed by his own twisted desires, hiding evil in plain sight. Let's start from where it all began. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He grew up in what, from the outside, appeared to be a normal suburban home, a quiet neighborhood, a father who worked as a research chemist, and a mother who stayed at home. But beneath the surface, things were far from perfect. Dahmer's childhood was marked by instability and emotional neglect. His parents, Lionel and Joyce Dahmer, had a turbulent marriage filled with frequent arguments. Some neighbors later recalled that young Jeffrey seemed lonely, withdrawn and detached, a boy lost in his own world. As a child, Dahmer displayed an early fascination with death and decay. He collected animal carcasses from the roadside, dissected small creatures, and preserved their bones in jars. To him, it wasn't cruelty, it was curiosity. He was fascinated by what happened to living things after they died. Some reports suggest that after undergoing a hernia surgery at age 6, Jeffrey's personality changed drastically. He became quiet, distant, and disconnected. While most children were making friends and exploring hobbies, Dahmer's world grew darker, filled with strange obsessions and social isolation. By the time he reached high school, teachers described him as intelligent but aimless. He drank heavily, often sneaking alcohol into class. Classmates thought of him as a prankster, someone who liked attention, but behind the humor was a growing void, a cold emptiness that would one day consume him. After graduating from Revere High School in 1978, Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State University, but his time there was short-lived. His drinking spiraled out of control, and he dropped out after just one semester. In 1979, his father forced him to enlist in the U.S. Army, hoping discipline would straighten him out. Dahmer trained as a combat medic and was stationed in Germany. But the pattern repeated. He drank constantly, isolated himself, and was eventually discharged for alcohol abuse in 1981. Later investigations would reveal that even during his time in the Army, Dahmer may have assaulted 2 fellow soldiers, drugging and raping them, acts that foreshadowed the horrors yet to come. June 1978, only weeks after finishing high school, 18-year-old Dahmer picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks near Bath, Ohio. The two went back to Dahmer's house, drank beer, and listened to music. But when Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer panicked. Terrified of being abandoned, he struck Hicks with a barbell, strangled him to death, and later dismembered his body. He smashed the bones with a sledgehammer and scattered them in the woods behind his family's home. It was his first taste of control, of power, and he would later describe it as a moment that changed him forever. For several years after that, Dahmer didn't kill again, at least not that we know of. But the fantasies never stopped. They grew darker, more vivid, and more consuming. In 1982, Dahmer returned to Milwaukee to live with his grandmother, hoping to start fresh. But the quiet environment only gave him more time to drink, to isolate, and to sink deeper into his fantasies. He was arrested several times during this period, once for indecent exposure, and another time for disorderly conduct. But each incident resulted in a light sentence or probation. By the mid-1980s, Dahmer's urges returned with full force. In 1987, he met 25-year-old Stephen Tuomi at a bar. Dahmer later claimed he woke up beside Tuomi's dead body with no memory of killing him. He bought a large suitcase, transported the body to his grandmother's basement, and dismembered it. After that, the killings became more frequent. In 1988, he was arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy named Somsak Sintasomphone. He served just 10 months in prison and was released on probation, free to kill again. Between 1988 and 1991, Dahmer's apartment at 924 North 25th Street became a house of horrors. He lured young men, often gay men of color, with promises of money, alcohol, or photography work. Once inside, he drugged them, strangled them, and performed necrophilic acts with their bodies. He kept trophies, skulls, bones, and photographs as reminders of his control. He even attempted what he called zombie experiment, drilling holes into the skulls of some victims and injecting acid or boiling water in an attempt to create living submissive partners. These grotesque acts revealed not just a murderer, but a man obsessed with possession, with keeping his victims close, forever frozen in silence. Dahmer's victims included young men like Anthony Sears, Raymond Smith, Ernest Miller, Tony Hughes, Conrad Synthesomphone, and many others. Most came from marginalized backgrounds, Black, Latino, Asian, or immigrant, and this fact later raised serious questions about systemic negligence and bias. Within law enforcement, neighbors often complained of strange smells coming from his apartment. Dahmer explained them away: spoiled meat, bad plumbing, a broken freezer. Police came by multiple times but never searched thoroughly. Dahmer's calm, polite demeanor always worked in his favor. One of the most tragic missed opportunities occurred on May 27, 1991, when 14-year-old Conrad Synthesomphone, the younger brother of Dahmer's previous assault victim, escaped from his apartment. He was naked, bleeding, and disoriented. Concerned neighbors called the police, but when Dahmer arrived, he calmly told officers that Conrad was his adult lover, who had simply drunk too much. Despite protests from witnesses, police returned the boy to Dahmer's apartment. Within an hour, Conrad was dead, drugged and strangled. His skull would later be found in Dahmer's freezer. This failure became one of the most haunting moments in Milwaukee's history, a grim symbol of how bias and negligence can cost lives. On July 22, 1991, Dahmer's final victim, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape after being threatened with a knife. He ran into the street, flagged down 2 police officers, and led them back to Dahmer's apartment. When police entered, they were met with a nightmare. Photographs of dismembered bodies lined the drawers. Skulls were stacked like trophies. A human head sat in the refrigerator, and a barrel filled with acid held the remains of several victims. Detectives described the smell as something they would never forget, a sickening mix of decay, chemicals, and death. Once arrested, Dahmer calmly confessed to everything. He recounted each murder in chilling detail, showing no sign of remorse. He described how he wanted to possess his victims completely, to make them a permanent part of himself. In total, Dahmer admitted to killing 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. His trial began in January 1992. He pleaded guilty but insane to 15 counts of murder. The jury, however, found him legally sane and fully responsible for his actions. On February 17, 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, over 900 years in prison. Later, he received another life sentence for his first murder in Ohio. In prison, Dahmer initially kept to himself, reading the Bible and expressing religious interest. But many inmates despised him. His crimes, especially cannibalism, made him a target. On November 28, 1994, while cleaning a bathroom in the Columbia Correctional Institution, Dahmer and 2 other inmates were left unsupervised. One of them, Christopher Scarver, a convicted murderer, attacked Dahmer and another inmate, Jesse Anderson, with a metal bar. Both men died from their injuries. Scarver later claimed that God told him to kill Dahmer. And just like that, the monster of Milwaukee was gone, beaten to death at 34 years old. Decades later, Jeffrey Dahmer remains one of history's most infamous serial killers. His crimes forced America to confront uncomfortable truths about systemic racism, police negligence, and how evil can exist in plain sight. His story isn't just about murder. It's about how society looks the other way until it's too late. About how monsters can hide behind smiles, jobs, and polite conversation. The apartment where his crimes took place was demolished in 1992. The nightmares he created still echo today. Jeffrey Dahmer is gone, but the impact of his crimes still lingers. Families were shattered, lives were stolen, and trust in the safety of ordinary neighborhoods was forever changed. His story is a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster in the shadow. Sometimes it looks like the quiet neighbor next door. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because there are more true cases waiting to be uncovered. Stay aware and stay safe.